Hello, welcome to Seek for Truth Radio. This is Jake Ruchotzke. I'm here tonight with Laura Marconi. How you doing tonight, Laura?
I'm doing great. Glad to be with all you guys tonight.
Thank you. Well, tonight, guys, we've got a very special show. Laura and I, together or separately, have interviewed multiple people that have had dreams and visions of a tsunami in Florida. And we've got a bunch of people on the line tonight that have had this experience. And so we're getting together tonight to discuss everybody's experience and just bring light to it, maybe draw similarities, and maybe get to the bottom of what everybody's seeing, or try and make connections and just maybe get a better idea of to the public of, maybe something really is coming with this, because if God is showing this many people something's going on. We also have on the line tonight John Founders from Now You See TV. How you doing tonight, John?
Doing great, man. Thanks for having me on here, and I'm definitely interested in to hear these visions and dreams that people have had about this. I know that it's been going around. A lot of people I know. Perry Stone has been talking about it, and a lot of people. So I'm definitely thankful to be here.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining us for the discussion tonight. So tonight we have multiple different guests. We're going to start with Angela's testimony. We also have Brett Creamer with us. We've got Manny Sanchez. He's had a vision. A good friend of mine, Ben Walters, is here. He's had a dream of flooding in Miami. And I guess we'll start with Angela tonight. Angela, why don't you just share with us briefly your experience? And if anybody has questions, please jump in. Just make sure you mention who you are so we know who's talking. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. I would just like to say that I was not aware of any of these end time, and I do believe these are the last days and the end time visions and dreams. I did not become awake, I should say, until January 2014, when the Lord started appearing to me. And at first, briefly, how it began was I woke up in the middle of the night because I could see smoke, and I saw a curling smoke. I thought my house was on fire, and I jumped up, but I couldn't smell any smoke or see any burning fire. And the Lord spoke to me and said, "Peace." And I laid back down, and went back to sleep. And then from then on, the Lord began to visit me and began to instruct me and show me things that I had no idea that was about to come to pass. It first started out with I saw this map, and we're just talking about the tsunami parts of the visitation. And I was high above the earth, and I could see on a map the United States, and I saw several different areas that are going to be devastated, and one of them is California. What I saw also Florida, devastated by tsunami. I also saw New York, New Jersey, and the coastline going up, devastated. But what I saw in the tsunami, it went all the way up. It reached out to parts of Canada and England. This is not something that is, people think it's just going to affect the United States, that God's judgment is going to affect the United States only, and that's not true. It will be worldwide. But the tsunamis that I was seeing was here, because this is where I live in the United States. I did see California break off. Part of it just went beneath the ocean, and it never resurfaced. The water went all the way up to Arizona. As far as concerning Florida, it completely covered Florida and devastated, destroyed. The tsunami wave itself was so big, I don't really know how big it was, other than it came in at least 100 miles, and it was traveling about 300 miles per hour, is what my good looking at it could tell. And then later it reached New York and devastated New York and New Jersey and the surrounding area. And the Lord said Sodom and Gomorrah. Sodom and Gomorrah. New York and California have been Sodom and Gomorrah to him. I don't want to say that, God is, the word that he told me, Jesus told me, was the Father is angry. He is wroth with anger at sin, at the rejection of Jesus Christ, his Son, and at how his children, his true children, are being treated and how the church is doing today. It is back to a den of thieves, and they make sport and spectacular things and things that are not of God go on in the churches today that is not ordained by God, because the church is in it. But he did make a definite distinction between his disobedient children and his true children. And in that night, I do want to say this, the Lord showed me that many miracles will happen in that night, and he will protect his children, period, 100%. He's told me also something that hurt at the same time, but was joyous too, that in that night he will take some of his children home. And I asked him why. And he said because their work is done and they get to go home early. And he will take them swiftly. We have no fear. Those who are ordained to live through this will remain, that are his true children, and will be protected and finish out his work here. But the devastation I saw is completely devastated. It's like California never came back. New York never came back. Florida never came back up.
Angela, let me ask you this. In regards to the tsunami, did you see what caused it? Was there like a did you see a comet? Did you see, go ahead.
Yes. The Lord
This is Jake, by the way.
Okay. The Lord took me up high one night. I was restless this night and could not sleep. And I sat up a little bit, reading the Word, listening to the Word, and then I put it down and I said, Lord, just show me what you will. Show me the prophetic. What do you want me to see? And suddenly I was whisked away, is all I can tell you. I was taken high above the earth, and the Lord let me see, and I call it a meteor comet. He let me see what's coming, and he slowed it down so that I could see it in detail. And he was standing to the right of me, and as it came in front of me, I know that comets have fire tails, and this is what I was seeing. And before, I don't study meteors or comets or anything, but the brain will fill in what we think it is. And at first I called it a meteor until I started understanding more about it, that it has a fire tail. So in the atmosphere there, in the big sky, it was a comet looking. And then as it passed me, it sped up to my left again and went back. It was traveling at I can't even tell you how fast it was traveling, just a high velocity of speed. And the Lord said, look. And I looked after it, and it said it knows its destination. And I seen it was coming to planet Earth, and I could see the United States, but also near Puerto Rico is where it will hit. It will go into the ocean, and it will hit an exact tectonic plate there, and that plate will send off and start a chain reaction, not just from the impact that will have these driving forceful winds, but it will also start a chain reaction of earthquakes. And Mexico also is going to be terribly devastated. There will be refugees coming out of Mexico. But that's that plate that runs all the way up across America up into California. That's what
interesting.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for sharing that, Angela. Let's move on to Brett Creamer. Why don't you tell us, Brett, what
before you move on, can I?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, this is John Pounders with ICTV. The question I had for you is, when you saw the tsunami, Is it like a first-person view? Were you there at the point of the tsunami break, or were you watching it from a distance? How did that work?
Yes, I was there. I was looking out through my eyes. The Lord was just showing it to me. Sometimes when I have visions, I'm watching myself do something. But when the Lord takes me up somewhere, I'm looking at it through my eyes and watching it as it's happening. So in that night, that was something I was watching out of my own eyes happen.
Okay, thank you very much. And I guess it reminds me of a verse in Revelation. When I heard it, it automatically reminded me. Let me pull this up real quick. And I won't take too much time here, Jake. Sorry, man. But in
Revelation 8.
Sorry, I'm slow on the punch here today. It's Revelation chapter 8 through 9. It talks about a great mountain burning with fire cast into the sea, and a third part of the sea became blood, and all the creatures in the seas died, and a third part of the ships were destroyed. That, like the mountain with fire, kind of reminds me of a comet.
Yeah.
That just brought it to my attention when you said that. So.
Wow.
But, and one more question that I did have about it too is, when were you shown this by? Because when I've had visions before where I've had what I assumed is an angel taking me to show me these things. Was it like that for you, or was it just kind of like you were there in the moment?
No, it's always been Jesus who has been with me. I don't get to see the Father much at all. Just I've seen his hand, his ear. I see Jesus mostly, and once in a while it's the Holy Spirit that shows up to instruct me with something. And yes, I've seen angels. He has plenty of them. They're encamped about us. Many more angels are now here, present with his true children. But it was Jesus who was showing me this, because I was not awake until January 2014. And it scared me, and I would cry and shake, but the Lord would calm me and tell me not to fear. Many times he rebuked me for fearing, and he would say, fear not. I will protect you. Fear not. I'll protect my true children, because my wrath is not appointed to my children. So that's how I calmed down about it. But it was always Jesus with me at these pivotal moments about this.
Awesome. Well, Brett, why don't we go ahead and start sharing kind of what God revealed to you in regards to the tsunami situation, and if anybody has any questions, jump in there, and we'll go forward with that, okay?
Okay. I've been saved since 2002. I was heavily involved in my church in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. I was at Calvary Chapel there. And I was asked, I was in seminary at Calvary Chapel when I was asked to come to St. Petersburg, Calvary Chapel on the other side of the state, and run the art department and the print house, the print shop, and also to run a ministry. And I ran the singles ministry there for 6 years. While we were living in St. Pete, we would go down to see my parents, who lived in Fort Myers, Florida, about 2 hours away. So one weekend, it was my wife and I and our children in the back. We had 2 children, and we're on our way back from Fort Myers going towards St. Petersburg. It was nighttime. The sun just went down. It's around 8 o'clock. The kids, when you have little kids, they were like, a year old, so they were very year and 2 years old. They were very small, very young. As soon as it's dark and you put them in the car, they go right to sleep. So they went to sleep. My wife was a little tired. She said, I'm going to put my head back and see if I can take a nap. She did that. I started praying as I was driving. And as I was praying, I was thanking God for giving us such a wonderful life. I'm looking in the mirror, I see my kids, I see my wife, we have a nice car, I have a job, working for the church, I get to work for the Lord, He's given us a nice house. I was very, just a time of thankfulness to the Lord. And I said, well, even though He gave us all this stuff, it really doesn't matter, because it's all going to burn anyway. And I was kind of laughing in this prayer. Instantly, I'm standing in the living room of our house in St. Petersburg. So I went from driving at night to standing in the living room in the daytime in my home. There's no furniture in the house. And as I'm standing there, I'm looking over towards the pass-through area that goes towards into the kitchen. And as I'm looking that way, up around all the walls, I see glittering light, like the way light reflects on the sides of a pool. When the sun comes down through it and makes like diamond patterns and shapes, and they're kind of moving and warbling all over the walls, I'm seeing reflection of light all over the walls. And I said, what in the world is going on? And everything had a light bluish teal tint to it. And I'm freaking out and at this point because I was just driving the car. Now, this is not the first vision I've had, but I didn't realize what was going on at the time until it was over. So, I mean, this isn't new, but at the same time, when it happens while you're driving the car, it freaks you out. So I'm looking around the room, and I'm trying to figure out what the light is coming in the room and why I'm standing here, what's going on. As I pan to the left towards the front door, I see about a quarter of the roof is ripped off, and I can see the house is underwater. And there was about 15 feet above the roof line was water. So the house was in about 25 feet of water. I could see we had two huge palm trees out in front of our house, and I could see the one palm tree reflection, the reflection of the palm tree above the water. I can see the light streaming down. As I'm marveling at this, looking straight up, thinking, what is going on? My brain is just wiped at this point. I'm suddenly back in my car. I'm white-knuckling it, you know? I mean, I'm driving down the road at probably 75 miles an hour. Don't give me any late tickets, Florida State Police. So I'm driving along. I'm holding the steering wheel on. I'm thinking, I don't even know what just happened to me. It went from nighttime to day, from me driving the car with my family to immediately in my living room underwater. Now, where my house sat in St. Petersburg was, as the realtor told us, it's the second highest location in St. Pete. Because of the height, we didn't need flood insurance. So if you went to that corner, the end of our street, if you look north, south, east, and west, all the streets tapered down. So we were in a location, like if we were at the beach and some event happened, even a hurricane, and it pushed all the water in, I could understand the house maybe being flooded up to the roof line. There's no way where our house was located in St. Pete that we could have been 25 feet underwater. If that's the case, all of Florida would have to be underwater. So I don't know why he showed me this. It could have been in response to me saying the house is going to burn, and maybe he was saying, no, it's not going to burn. It's going to be flooded. I don't know. That's my interpretation. And what he showed me, when the house, the roof was ripped off, the section of roof that was ripped off was the northwest corner of the house. So that's another unusual thing that I thought about. You know, as I go back over the dream, I can remember it like it was yesterday. I can remember there's no furniture. I can remember the light in the room. I can remember the roof ripped off. I remember thinking about the direction where it was coming from. Now, if the tsunami, as people are seeing, is going to come from the south, moving north, I would have assumed the other side of the house I would have thought it would have ripped the whole roof off. But maybe since there was two bedrooms to the south side of the house, maybe those roofs, the roof was ripped off there. But being on the Gulf side of Florida, the only thing I can imagine is the tsunami moved up through the Gulf of Mexico faster because there was no resistance, hits at the top of the Gulf of Mexico and bounces back because water can bounce like sound. So my only thought is the water bounces off the Gulf and comes back towards my house from the northwest. That's my only thought, unless whatever this event happens in Puerto Rico that people have seen with a comet does strike this fault line, as Angela was saying, and everything sinks. I mean, heck, a boat could have hit my house. I don't know. You know, a palm tree, a floating Suburban. All I know is I'm trying to give you direction so you can, maybe somebody could piece together what I saw. Maybe someone saw it from a different angle. So
Brett, this is Jake. So God didn't reveal anything in this as far as to what caused it. You just knew that it was underwater, and you, in the vision, you yourself were underwater, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I was standing underwater, but I could breathe. So it didn't bother me, like as if I'm standing underwater almost as a spirit. And that's the funny thing is I never once thought about breathing. Maybe I wasn't there long enough to even consider it, but I never even considered not breathing or needing to breathe. I just stood there looking around, not knowing what was happening to me.
Yeah. Did you have something, Angela?
Yeah, I want to interject something that although I did see California break off and sink, I did not see Florida sink. I saw it totally devastated. It was the devastation, and it was totally covered. It was underwater, but covered, but I don't know if the waters receded or not. I only saw how far everything was going in.
Interesting.
Yeah, it could be that a boat got loose and hit the house when it was at 10 feet. I don't know.
I mean, it could. With
anything.
Water moving at those speeds, it could be. I memean, who knows? It could be a number of things that could do that kind of damage. That's very interesting, though, man. It's. I like it. I mean, I like what we're hearing here tonight, because it's like Angela has the one perspective, you have another perspective on the ground. It's kind of like filling the pieces of a puzzle together. And I forgot to mention tonight that Laura, you also had an experience with this too, correct?
Yes, but nothing like Angela or Brett. But I had a few dreams about tsunamis.
Why don't we go to you, because I totally forgot to mention that. And also Laura Marconi has a show called Wake Up already that she started. And that's kind of how both of us connected. But share real quick, Laura, what God showed you in your situation, and then we'll move on to Ben and Manny.
Yes. To kind of tie Angela and Brett, both of what God showed both of them together, I actually started having dreams, and I'm not going to go into the details of what you want to call a fireball, comet, or whatever you want to call it, coming through the sky like years ago, back in 2006. And I started having dreams of tsunamis at that time too. And, I wasn't on YouTube then. I wasn't hearing other people at church saying they had visions or dreams about it, so it wasn't something in my self-conscience that I was, dreaming because other people were telling me. But anyway, one of my most recent dreams of a tsunami that I've had this past month or so, I'd have to look in my journal, I was in a house, and it kind of reminded me of what Brett just shared. I was in this 2-story house, and I was looking in this mirror, this vanity, and I was just admiring my blouse I had on. It was like a new blouse. And there was someone in the room with me, and I believe it to be an angel. I wasn't allowed to see who it was, but I was talking to them, and I was talking about the judgment of God. And I was saying, the judgment of God is coming very soon, to this earth, and we need to get ready. And as soon as I said that, I turned over my right shoulder and looked at the window, and it was just darkness outside. Like you could tell, it was just pitch black because it was night. But even through the darkness, I could see this wall of water just coming rapidly, like really, really fast towards the window. And it was just like, I would just call it a tsunami, a wall of water, and it was just coming really, really fast. And the next thing I know, like the window's completely covered in water. And, I don't know how high above the house it went. I have no idea. And I scream out in the dream because it seemed so real. And I was like, we got to get out of here. The window's going to bust. And I'm just like, freaking out, and I wake up. That was my most recent one. And then I had one that really stood out to me also was I was in a basement, and I was looking out the window, and the sky was really, really red, and I seen a huge tsunami. It's so high, I don't even know how high it was, and it was just like one wall of water, and it was just coming. but it was like I was at peace, like I wasn't fearful. And it was funny because at the time I was living not where I'm living now, and I'm actually I have a basement apartment now, which is weird because in the dream I was in like a basement. So I don't know if that means anything or not, but I just found that kind of odd.
Laura, this is Jake. Let me ask you, in either of these dreams, did you have any indication where you were? Like, are you able to connect this to Florida, or is this just kind of a tsunami? We don't know.
I wish I could. I wish I could say I have, but that's one thing I was never shown. It was a location.
Okay.
So.
Gotcha. But I think it is valid because, I mean, anything to do with tsunamis, I mean, we're talking, especially in the United States, this could very well be connected. So I think that's very interesting, what you shared there. That's awesome. What I'd like to do now, does anybody have any questions for Laura or want to interject anything into that?
I would just like to say, this is Angela, that this is not coincidence. There are too many of us that God is preparing and causing us to be messengers to give out these messages about what's coming. This is not coincidence. This is God-given.
Yeah. And I'd also like to say, too, you said that in my mind, Jake, you know that I had Augusto Perez on my show recently, and the reason being is because he confirmed one of my dreams that I had, and, it wasn't a tsunami in that dream, but, it's too much detail. I don't want to take up your time, but he confirmed a dream that I had, I was like back in 2015, and it was about a spiral in the sky, something coming to the earth. I heard an audible voice say radiation. I mean, you can go to the show and listen. I'm not going to take up any more time.
I'd like to encourage people to, when you check this video out, it's going to be in a channel called Florida Tsunami. I'm creating a special channel for all these shows that we've been doing that are going to connect them all together. So I may need to get some details from you, Laura, on, or you know what, I need to upload that particular show you're talking about to YouTube. I think you have that one on Wake Up already, but I want to get it on YouTube. I think I've got the audio.
It's awesome, too, because the listeners can hear Brother Augusto's, his reaction of, wow, I've never heard anyone been shown the same thing similar to what I've been shown, and he was in shock.
Well, and I wasn't able to get Augusto tonight, but he's had similar visions of a tsunami in Florida, and he says the same thing, that it's like a comet hitting the earth. And his interpretation of it and his study that he's done is he believes it's related to this Planet X situation, this Nibiru that they're talking about. Again, I'm not an expert in it, so I'm not going to get all into it, but definitely you need to listen to the show I did with Augusto Perez, and you need to listen to the show that Laura did with Augusto Perez because it's fascinating. It's really interesting. I think, John, aren't you scheduled to have a show with Augusto Perez?
I'm not scheduled yet, but I talked to him recently. We're definitely in the works for having one in the next couple of weeks. So I haven't.
Do me a favor, when you have that show, make sure you hit on that, and we can include it again. Just another recount of his testimony, whatever else you guys talk about, and I'll throw that Now You See TV video in there too. But I just think it's really interesting that again there's other people that aren't on this call that have had this situation. I don't know how many people are out there that have had dreams of or visions of a tsunami in Florida. In fact, if you're on YouTube and you're listening to this, please contact us and let us know, hey, I had a dream, I had a vision. Tell us what you saw. It just helps us put more of the pieces together and identify, what is coming. I believe God does warn His people. What I'd like to do is
can I quick ask?
Go ahead.
This
Brett.
Is Brett. Can I quick ask a question?
Yeah.
When you had your vision, was what you saw coming to the earth, was that at night?
Yes, it was at night, and I was given a time about it hits about 2 a.m. but I don't think it reaches Florida until about 5 a.m.
And
go ahead.
And you, Laura, your last dream, it was at night.
Oh, yes, no question. No question.
Okay. I'm just seeing the connection there.
Interesting.
And I didn't tell you guys this when it was my turn to talk, but my brother also has been having dreams for years about tsunamis. It's driving him crazy. And he said it might have been 2 months ago, he emailed me, and I think he said he had 2 or 3 dreams in a week about tsunamis. It just keeps coming. He lives on the coast of North Carolina.
Interesting.
I've also had a dream about a tsunami where I'm trying to warn my family, and no one wants to take note. No one wants to listen. So it seems like that's the standard. You tell people about it, they don't want to know.
That's definitely interesting. So what I'd like to do now is move on to Ben Walters. He's my friend. I've known him for years. And he's not someone that's had a lot of visions or vivid dreams or anything like this, but when he told me this, it really stood out to me. And when I started making all these connections with these people, like the Lord brought it back to my remembrance. And so I talked to him about it, and he was like, yeah, I'd like to come on and share. So, Ben, why don't you share with us what this dream you had was about, where it took place, how you knew where it was, and kind of the surrounding, what happened in the dream.
Okay. So when the dream actually took place, I believe it was around 2012. And during that time period, I was receiving a lot of attacks. And I was having several dreams at that time, actually, as well. I currently live in Colorado. However, like I said, this dream took place when I was living in Dallas, Texas back in 2012. It's funny that listening to some of the other guys has brought back some of the memories of it, and I've tried to find my journals and references, but have had no luck so far. What was weird, mine was a dream. When the dream first started off, I was in Miami, and it was nighttime, but as quickly as I can remember it being night, it turned day, and a loud siren was blaring, and I was underneath an underpass of a highway there in Miami. And with the siren blasting overhead, you could hear it very loudly, and I look out towards where the sea was, or where the ocean would be coming from, and there was a large wave that was coming towards us. At that time, there were several people screaming and yelling, and all of a sudden the wave hit. As quickly as I was able to turn my head from the wave hitting, I was braced upon a vehicle. The waves came crashing through and coming through like it's a full-flowing river. And when I look back into the water, I see nothing but people screaming, kids yelling for help. I see dead bodies that are going by. And about 30 to maybe 50 meters from me, I see a woman and her child hanging onto a car screaming for help. And at this point, that's when I swam to them to try to help them. For me, personally, that's where I woke up and felt an overwhelming sense of fear. And I knew for a fact that it was a sign of things to come. And when I say that, the reason I was able to know that or felt like that was going to happen was I felt like I was being told, be prepared. Just be prepared.
Interesting. Ben, were you able to tell, like, how this is Jake, were you able to tell how deep the water was in the dream? Like, was there any indication, like, were you on the top of a surge of a wave? Was this ground level? Like, can you explain any of that, like maybe what you saw?
From my experience there, it was on the ground. I was literally on the ground with vehicles. So when the water came storming through at that point, it was at the initial stages, and it wasn't going over the vehicles. The vehicles were flowing in the water with the actual movement of the water, as well as the bodies and everything. But it was way too far or way too deep to actually touch the ground.
Gotcha. Okay. That's interesting. And yours also took place, you said it was at nighttime when this happened, and it was quickly transitioning into day?
Yes, and then, like I said, it was as dark as night when it first started, and just like the flip of a switch, it became daylight as bright as day, and the siren was going off, and the wave was coming in.
Can I interject something really quick? This is Laura.
Yeah, go ahead.
When he mentioned it was really dark and it got really bright, you know, in my one dream I had, that was the spiral in the sky, when it was really dark when I was outside, and whatever this spiral was that was coming to the earth that was going to cause radiation, it got brighter and brighter and brighter as it was coming to the earth. I just thought, you know, I should add that in there.
Okay, interesting. Did anyone else have anything to interject or questions for Ben in regard to his experience?
Yeah, this is Brett.
Yeah, no, go ahead, Brett. Go ahead.
Oh, just a real quick thought. When Ben, when you said you saw a woman with child, I instantly, as I just taught about Revelation 12, it's funny where it says a great sign appeared in heaven, a woman clothed in the sun, and she was with child, and you ran to help her. I thought that was interesting. Like a picture that's a woman with child, it's a picture of Israel, and it's interesting running to help Israel or the coming church. Anyway, maybe that's what you're doing today, helping the coming church.
That's very interesting.
Yeah, this is John. I had a question for basically, I guess, for everyone that had the dream or vision. Were any of you given any indication of what this meant for the rest of the country that was not involved in the tsunami and the catastrophe itself?
This is Angela. This was the beginning of what the Lord was showing me of what would start out a great devastation through all of America. It was much more that the chain reaction between the tsunamis and the earthquakes. It caused many things to happen, and it set off earthquakes everywhere in diverse places. I saw sinkholes, towns disappear. It was crazy. It was such chaos, devastation. I saw a great many things. That's why it's so hard sometimes just thinking back about it to recall it. I do recall in that night, though, even angels will be at work, and even at work in Florida, and they will move people miraculously, or you will be bubbled. In other words, a bubble of protection will come down on you, and the waves will not devastate you or hit you. I don't know how the Lord is going to do all this. I just saw so many devastating chain reaction things. It's like America was split also in half. Kind of what I was looking at, I looked it up on the map because I don't know anything about fault lines. I'm not a scientific girl. But I looked, and it was along the New Madrid fault line is where I've seen a lot of devastation in the split of the United States because of their involvement in the sin of trying to split the land of Israel. It's just a lot of things. There was much.
Interesting. Well, and one thing I'd like to interject, too, is when Ben told me this, I think he told me around the time this happened in 2012 when he was living in Dallas. But, Ben, if I recall, when you told me this, I remember you telling me, man, I think this is going to happen. We had talked about end time stuff, and you thought, I remember you telling me, you're like, Jake, I think I'm going to be here when a lot of this stuff happens. Isn't that correct?
Yes, that is correct, and that's what I was going to actually touch on, that I've always had the thought or indication that I would be here during those time periods and be boots on the ground, so to speak, and actually dealing with all those things that take place. That's why when this dream took place, it was unlike any other dream that I've ever had. And I remember that feeling of being told, be prepared, and in response to that, I had the only feeling and thoughts that came to mind is, I'm not ready for that. I'm not ready.
Yeah.
And again, be prepared. You will be prepared.
And you told me recently that you considered going to a school in Miami. Isn't that correct?
Yeah, actually. what brought all this back about for me is that I think it was Manny's testimony in reference to this on one of your podcasts.
Yeah.
And that's what started bringing all this back. And I was like, you asked me, I was like, you said, well, would there be any reason why you'd be going there? I was like, well, ironically, I'm actually looking at a nursing school there at Florida International University, and that's there in Miami. And ironically enough, I'm actually flying into Miami on Friday, and I'll be there all day. So it's like a lot of different things are taking me back to that location.
Man, that's wild.
Interesting. This is John again. I got one more question. This is a group question as well. Were any of you given or were any of you aware of what time of year or season, month, anything like that this would take place?
This is Angela. I really don't know the month of the season. Who can be prepared for such a thing? But when it happens, we'll be in it, and all I know is that we'll be protected and that the Lord will instruct us then. But I do have a friend that he says he does not have visions. He does not have dreams. He said his father is a preacher, and he's the son of a preacher, and the Lord speaks to his father the same way he speaks to him. He just speaks to him. And that he said that to look for something major to happen come March. Now, I don't know if that meant monetarily, martial law. I saw martial law also in the visions that will take place. I don't know the time. I don't know what he's speaking of, but he said, this is all that I can tell you as the Lord told me. Look for something in March.
Interesting. Well, I want to move on now as the hour's getting late. I want to move on to Manny, and I interviewed Manny before in depth with, like, his entire testimony. What I'd like you to do tonight, Manny, is just focus on the aspect of your testimony in relation to the tsunami vision you had. So tell us tonight what happened when you had this vision and what you saw.
Well, pretty much when I went to sleep at one point, and all I saw was I just ended up being at this spot. I couldn't tell you exactly where it was in Florida. I just recognized I was in Florida due to the palm trees just being taken up by this giant wave. So I was there and I was with my wife, and it kind of reminds me of like if any of you guys have ever seen that movie 2012, that giant wave that would just come in taking up everybody. It kind of reminds me of that, except only darker and just a little bit more taller, just from what I could see. Everybody was running away from this wave, but there's no way anybody could outrun it. It's just that's why me and my wife, we just stayed where we were at, because we knew there's no way we can survive this thing. So all we see is this giant tsunami, and it was huge. We couldn't see that. We looked to see the top of it, and it looked like it blended in with the sky, and it was just hurling straight towards us. And right when it came close to us, that's when I just closed my eyes, and that's when we were just swept away. So all I know is that when we were taken, that wave was just swallowing up everything, and like I can't picture no building that can go taller than that. Like anybody that can go up in the sky wouldn't be safe enough, unless you're in a plane that can climb you up high enough to see the top of it. But that's what I saw as far as the large tsunami.
Interesting. So did you have a understanding as far as what time of the day it was? Was this at nighttime, during the day? Were you able to tell?
Well, it was overcast, so that could be pretty much any time, since the sun is behind the clouds. It was really overcast. So all I know is that's all I know as far as I could see. I mean, I could see that there was light, but it looked overcast. So that's it. Yeah.
And you didn't have any indicator as far as what caused the tsunami, right? All you knew is you were on the beach, or?
Well, no. Well, the thing is, it looked. I couldn't see. It looked like I was in like Orlando, just like the city of it. But because of the palm trees, or it could be Miami. Like I said, all I could see is just a giant wall, giant wall with water just hurling straight at me. The one thing that indicated whenever I was when I left Florida, and after a while I was asking, I would ask God, like, well, why do I have to leave there? Why do I have to leave Florida? I'm like, what are we running away from? And then that's when he showed me like a meteor. I was like, oh, okay, well, that explains it. Yeah.
Gotcha. Interesting. Does anybody have any questions for Manny and what he just described, or do you want to interject anything? Awesome. Well, guys, I think, this has been very interesting. You've heard the testimony now of a handful of people who have seen some very similar things. There's a lot more people out there I know that have had these experiences. There's people tonight that have talked about their relatives having similar dreams, similar visions. I know Perry Stone has had visions of tsunamis on the coast. However, he has not necessarily related that to being a literal tsunami. I think at this time he still is open-ended as far as what the interpretation of the tsunami means. Maybe it means something else. I know he said a long time ago he had a vision of a tsunami coming up over the Twin Towers as a sign of judgment coming on New York there. But again, he's just another voice. He usually gets out there and asks people questions. A while back, I was talking about this with John, and I think Laura and I talked about it on one of the shows we did just a little bit ago. He requested on Facebook for everyone to share any disaster event that they've seen. I believe it was on the coastline or something like that, but he wanted to know like everything people had seen, because what he likes to do is when he sees something, he tries to confirm it with other people. It's the same thing that what we're doing. He tries to bounce it off other people and see, before he shares all his details, he likes to hear what other people are seeing. And then that helps him confirm, this is exactly what I saw. This is God, just another confirmation that, what he saw, somebody else is seeing the same thing. So I think it's really interesting. But these days we're living in, we got to be prepared. We got to be ready for when these things begin to happen. If they could happen, again, I believe what you guys are saying, but we just need to be ready, because we don't know what God has in store, and the times are dark right now, and we know at some point these things that Revelation talks about are going to begin to come to pass. Does anyone else have anything to interject or closing statements or anything else you want to share tonight?
This is Angela.
Yeah.
The Lord did instruct me to go back to the books of Habakkuk, Haggai, Zephaniah, and Joel. And it talks in there about this devastation that's coming. It's so devastated about what's coming that I was thinking to myself, when has this ever happened in the history of mankind? I don't remember that being ever told in any history book of the devastation that's in those books. There are only 2 or 3 chapters, easy read to find it. So that God was giving me confirmation too. When the Lord began to speak all these things to me, I didn't know anybody that even had a dream or a vision. And the Lord started confirming it, through people like you, people I didn't know. And I was like, thank you, God. I'm not the only one that you're showing this to. I thank you, God. This is not coincidence. I thank you. This is divine. This is your will. This is what's going to happen. So I just wanted to say, read those books. It may help you understand a little more, too.
Awesome. I'll definitely check that out. Well, just so you guys know, this is going to go up on my channel, Seek for Truth. This is going to go out also on John's channel, Now You See TV. And I'm sure at some point in time we may have other shows about this. I'm just hoping we don't have a show anytime soon that talks about the results of this thing happening. I'm hoping that God will reveal this to enough people to where people have a chance to make some changes to move to whatever. As Angela said, obviously there's going to be Christians there when this happened. Not everybody's going to get out of Florida, but I just find it really interesting, find it fascinating. I want to thank all you guys for joining us tonight and sharing your story. And maybe, again, we can get together when we have some more people to talk to in regards to this. But, again, please contact us. Go ahead. Who's that? Oh, sorry. I thought someone was interjecting something. But please contact us. You can contact me at seek4truth, one word, so seek4truth.tk@gmail.com. You can contact John at nowuctv. Is it .org, John?
Sorry, I was on
John,
mute. It's nowuctv.org or nowuctv@gmail.com.
Okay, awesome. And you can also contact Laura. Laura, what's your contact?
They can just go to Blog Talk Radio and go to Wake Up Already, and it's all capital letters, or contact me on Facebook, Laura Marconi, Marconi. So,
okay, awesome.
2 ways to contact me.
Awesome. Well, guys, until next time, this has been Jake and company with Seek for Truth Radio. And until next time, God bless you guys.
Amen. God bless you.